Hello, hello, hello. Good evening to you, Chris. Good. Why have I gone all posh? Kenneth William. Good evening.
It's like your telephone voice, love. It's fabulous.
I don't know what happened. Yes,
Yeah.
I can't do the whole evening. Like, good
All right.
evening.
I mean,
It's Alfred Hitchcock, wasn't it? Good
yeah,
evening.
but I mean, it's like this. We've only done 30 seconds. We'll lower the tone in about 5 minutes.
Oh, it's that Friday feeling. I've had a funny way. Anyway,
No.
lovely to have you here, my lovely friend
Lovely
Chris.
to be back after a long while, isn't it?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but we can catch up on loads of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So exciting. You've got a deck to show, haven't you?
I've got a deck. Yes. Yeah. My brand new deck. Well, actually, it's sort of my brand new, but not quite so brand new deck. Started in 2007, revised twice, and finally out there in print for anyone who wants it. So, yes.
Fabulous. I tell you what I will do. I will pop right now into chat the link. It's through NPC.
Make playing cards. So
it's in there if you want to make the link. If you have trouble, I'm going to pop it in during the course of the chat as we keep going. So, should we say hello to some people that want to join us?
Gerald's in.
Gerald is in. He's going to be enjoying the playback.
Oh, fabulous! Yeah, I will try. We will try and keep it decent and refined. It's a good job he knows I'm being sarcastic, isn't it?
Now, Robin says hello, twinsies, because Robin thinks that we look a bit alike. I don't know. What are our similarities, Robin? Do let us know.
We were just talking about that, weren't we?
Let's see if you can match our ones. And Gerald said they do look alike, don't they? Yes. I suppose there is a few odd similarities there. Tony is here. Hello, my lovely Tony. Good evening to you.
And I've got to say thank you to Gerald because he likes my earrings.
He does. What have you got in there?
They're fake stretchers. They kind of look as if they're like sort of impalements, but they're not. They're just ordinary earrings that kind of. You see what I mean?
They're painful.
No,
you sleep with them in.
They're easy.
They stab you in the night.
No, they just look, they just unscrew.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So I've got to put this damn thing back in now while I'm on air. I never thought of that. There we go.
We're going to stop and watch.
Hang on. They're screw fitting. So, yes.
Loving it. Very good. Very good. The lovely Deanne is here. Hello, my darling Deanne. Lovely to see you here. I hope you're well.
Actually, this is really hotting up.
And lovely Lorraine is here. Hello, Lorraine. Lovely to see you here. He says decent and refined. I won't be watching that.
So we'll lower the tone then, just to keep your attention.
Hello to anyone else who's watching or going to be watching on playback. It's lovely to have you here. Lovely Heather is here. I am with Heather next week, and Gerald. We're doing something about the court cards, and I love talking about the court cards. So I'll do a plug at the end for that one. But I'd love to see you here. And Gerald says decent and refined. I won't be watching that. Okay. We've got Robin says, can you do another link? That one says, oops, not found. Bear with me then. Let's see if I can put this in here. Hang on a second. Let me know how this one goes. If not, perhaps one of the mods might be able to.
If it doesn't, what I'll do, I'll bring it up now. And I'll
try that one.
I'll recut the link. Have you put that one in?
I put one in. That's from their actual web page. So
perfect.
Let me know if it doesn't work, and perhaps we'll get our lovely mods working on it like that through the whole of the live. But hello, welcome to anyone else who's working, lurking, watching on playback. It is lovely. Oh, it works. So there we go. There's your link. That's good. So you can see it's available on NPC. Chris, shall we start?
Yeah,
we've got lots to talk about. Should we talk about the deck first? Then you can show some of your cards, or perhaps you might want to go as we go forward. Why did you decide? It's a Marseille deck, isn't it? Let's lay it out there.
It's a Marseille-inspired deck, but I've got to say, if anyone is a real Marseille purist, they'll just be horrified when they see this because it's
had the Chris Butler treatment.
But it's not even. It's kind of just so unlike anything else I've done, because it actually started out as a joke project, but yeah, and it was a fun project and a challenge, and it was actually I did the first version of this in 2007, and I just finished working on the Quantum Tarot with Kay Stopforth, and I wanted something just to kind of say thank you to her because of, what we'd kind of achieved and the fact that it actually, at that stage, we were kind of well onto the way to a publishing deal. So I wanted something to say thank you to Kay for sort of taking the risk of, using me as the illustrator. And also I'd kind of done, at that stage, I'd designed a couple of decks. I'd done Rider inspired decks. I'd had a pretty rough attempt at doing a Thoth style deck, which was never published, needless to say. And I thought, let's do something that's Marseille inspired. But it had to be quick because I kind of wanted this light-hearted thank you for Kay and just to dedicate something to her. So I ended up setting myself the challenge. I don't know whether I was drunk when I did, but I would create a Marseille style deck in the space of about 3 weeks, which is a big mistake. And I would have to do it. I would only be able to do it with stuff that I had on the computer. So I had to make the whole deck out of what? Blue Crescent Moon, a horrifying deck. That's what I love. Fabulous. There I was, and I decided I could only create the deck with clip art and custom shapes that were already on my computer. So here is my hand-printed proof copy. Hi, Manasseh. Marseille purists, you really will be horrified. I took loads of liberties because, of course, I had to make, do, and mend.
Yes.
So this is the first version, and I kind of just, at the time, my first Marseille deck that I'd had was a Grimo Marseille, so I kind of followed the colours on that, and I just improvised to try and keep the spirit of the symbolism, but of course it's a lot simpler. I wanted the colours, but I was kind of thinking, well, what would it is what it is. John for Pope, long may he reign. That was a piece of clip art, but it got even more hilarious when it got to the pips, because of course you've got like all those amazing Marseille pips with the sort of fleur-ons and the and of course I couldn't do that. So I kind of just ended up, again, these are all basic Photoshop custom shapes that have been warped or adapted. So that was my first version. I was pretty crap at Photoshop this early on, so I had to stylize a lot of things. So you can see, stylize the swords, because quite frankly, I didn't have pre-existent shapes and I didn't know how to do them properly. So they got stylized down, as did the wands. So yeah, that was version 1. And it was great fun. And I talked about doing this on the Eclectic Tarot Forum, and there was a few people who were interested. So I ended up making these sort of hand-printed copies, photo paper, and
digging those.
Oh, lovely. I'm glad you like them. But there's a few people out there that have got these. They're very rare because I think I only made about 12 copies. Printed on my inkjet, laminated, hand cut. So that was version 1. I kind of used it for a while and left it. And then in 2010, I just bought a really amazing, this kind of really repiqued my interest in tarot. This was sadly no longer with us, Jean-Claude Flournoy. He was a Tarot de Marseille scholar and also an amazing artist. And he did a restoration of the early Jean Noblet tarot, which is I think is one of the very, very earliest Marseilles. And of course, it's in the sort of, restored. These are the kind of colours that would have been used on the early decks. So I thought, well, let's go back to mine and do a revision.
Let's see.
So 2010, and by that stage, my Photoshop wasn't so crap. So I could actually now do proper wands and swords. And I thought
learning curve.
So I thought, let's just do the same thing, but with proper wands and swords in Noblet colours. So this this was, again, I only printed a couple of these in pocket editions.
I was going to say they look smaller.
They're small, yeah. So there's my swords. But you see, we've got proper swords by this stage.
Yeah.
So yeah, this, I still cart this round with me. This went to the UK Tarot Conference with me because it's just, you know, I kind of like reading with it, and also because it's just small and handy. But again, hand printed. I think there was about 6 or 7 of these made. Didn't sell many of them. And then one of my mates challenged me a couple of months ago, and you know, we were talking about sort of my unpublished stuff, and he just, you know, he said, "Look, technology's moved on. You know, you've got print on demand. You know, just why don't you just do revisions on these and make them available?" So hence version 3. So what I've done with this, it's more or less version 2 with a few bits of polishing. And it's now, as I say, it's now got its own proper back design, because I never did a back design before. So there's my kind of trademark mandalas from Sacred Tarot. Because I like the fact with a lot of these Marseille decks, you always kind of have the signature of the playing card house and the designer. So I thought, yeah, let's put my signature on the back.
I like that. I like the red as well.
The red, that's a little tribute, because the first time I saw tarot was in the James Bond film Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
And if you remember the amazing Fergus Hall tarot, and they had red 007 backs, so I thought, right, we're having red mandala backs on this. So that's my kind of that's my Fergus Hall tribute.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of silliness in these, because of course if you're doing a make do and mend deck, you kind of have to improvise. And I've kind of I love the fact that you know, there was a lot of humor in early decks, you know, in the imagery, and I kind of wanted to inject a little bit of that as well. So when I kind of show you some of the individual cards, I'll kind of tell you some of the funny stories behind it.
Stories and the things behind.
I've got an Aber Hermit.
Have you?
Yeah, it's my Aber. Yeah. It is. When we get to the Hermit, I'll tell you about I will tell you about the Aber connection.
I can't wait. Stay tuned, everyone. Stay tuned. Heather says there's a tarot conference. How cool! Yes, there is. It's a big one. It's in London in October, isn't it? And you were speaking
in October. Yeah, I was a speaker this time, and it's just, oh God, it's the best. It's the best event. It's kind of one of the highlights of my year's calendar. It's run by an amazing woman called Kim Arnold. I think it's been running for about 20 years. Apparently, Kim is actually going to be telling her story at the next conference about all of her battles, because she used to own an esoteric shop, and she ended up locked in battles with the evangelical Christians trying to get her shut down. So she is an amazing woman. She's one of the loveliest people I've met, but also she's just this powerhouse behind the UK Tarot Conference. And it's, as I say, if you get a chance to go, do, because you know, I was amazed. And when there was people had flown in from all over the world, I met the most amazing woman called Estrella at this year's conference, and she'd flown all the way from Thailand just to do the UK Tarot Conference. And she's setting up her own fine art imprint, and she brought her first Oracle deck with her. And I'm thinking, God, where else would I get to meet, you know, fellow tarot enthusiasts from the Far East, but someone like, you know, I ended up on the naughty table at the front with the secretary and I think the chairman of the Tarot Association of the British Isles, and we were all being incredibly silly and mischievous.
You got told off at the International Tarot or the UK Tarot Conference. Was Stephen Bright there? Did he tell you what?
He was. We weren't being that naughty, and actually,
no, just jovial.
Well, Stephen wouldn't have told us off; he would have just egged us on.
I saw some pictures from it. There were some really lovely people there, some big names in tarot as well, which was great.
Yeah, and then you go into fanboy mode, because all of a sudden, oh my God, it's them. You know, Juliet Sharman Burt was one of the speakers, and I was just,
Yeah,
goddess.
exactly.
That woman's books are amazing, and she's just, and in person she's just this amazingly gentle, lovely, very powerful and affirmed woman, and so much wisdom. So I'm kind of, this is the other thing. You sat there having tea and cake, and you've got her on one side, I've got Liz Dean on another, Kathleen Matthews on the other side of the table. I'm thinking, I'm loving this.
I think and you gave a speech, didn't you? You actually did a presentation.
For me, what it was, I was kind of billed to be the lunchtime workshop, which was it's kind of an optional, and because they had to sort of jiggle the schedule around, and because one of the presenters, bless him, ended up having to present remotely because he was dying of flu. He did an amazing job, considering he was just like completely bunged up because he couldn't travel. So Kim had said to me, "Can we bring your workshop forward just to fill a gap?" Yeah. So thankfully, what I'd arranged, it could be adapted just for giving it as a mini workshop. So great fun. So
there you go.
And lots of decks on sale. Geraldine was there from Atlantis Bookshop with half the shop laid out on tables outside, totally enabling.
Actually, I think I went and visited her either just before, just after, and there was not much stock left in the shop.
Thing is, everyone saves up for the conference because they know that Geraldine's going to put a really good spread on, and anything you're looking for, she'll have there. Oh, it's Pam. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Pamela. Lovely. Hello, anyone else that's joined us. Hi, Ren as well. Ren's popped in there. Robin says, Red triple O backed, ready for James Bond to step into the gun barrel mandala.
Oh, yeah.
I can see that there. Yeah. And Heather says, Rennie, I could teleport. Perhaps one day. Hopefully. Should we get back to the deck? Let's talk about the deck. So how long was the process from making your third one? How long did it take you to kind of
for this final version?
Yeah.
Well, it was, the first version was 2007, so here we are in 2022, and it just, it's just because I've finally just decided to revisit it after all these years. Yeah. So what I did this time, I kind of tweaked the color scheme again. I wanted to keep traditional colors, but of course in the interim, this has come out, and I just think this is just, again, this guy's sadly no longer with us, taken way too young. But I think this is probably one of the finest restorations of but also authentic restorations of a Marseille deck that there is. Right. Yeah. So I love what he did with this. So I kind of based the colors on this because I wanted something a little bit fresher and more modern. So so third revision. So 2.5 weeks in 2007. I spent a week doing the revisions in 2010. And then I kind of had to, and also I had to sort of slightly reshape and size these for make playing cards. So
I was going to say, are they the traditional Marseille? So I don't know much about Marseille. But Marseille cards are always a bit longer, aren't they? A bit bigger.
They're about the same height, but they're a bit narrower. Now these are standard riser size because this is the size that make playing cards do. Right. And you can see from, I've got. This was my first Marseille deck. It's not my original copy because I've got a couple of these, but you can see with a Marseille deck, they tend to be they are quite narrow.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit wider. These are the size of your yellow box rider weight. Yeah. So you too, darling. So it's make playing cards. This is one of their standard stocks, and I'm really thrilled with it. So, and you can see, that they are kind of a send up of the Marseille, but I love the sort of crudity of the woodcuts. And part of me was thinking, what's the modern equivalent of that kind of crudity? And I thought, clip art shapes, and it's it's also as well I mean, I've put the color overlays over these,
Yeah.
so but if you strip the color overlays off, they look really quite hilarious because they're bits of clip art, and they're usually people that are doing things that are completely un-tarot related, and then they've had hats made of custom shapes stuck on them, and shoulder pads, and I mean, if you want to completely blow the myth out the window,
yeah, we do.
Right, so there's my judgment card.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, these are sports person clip art. That's actually a golfer, but because he's coming up halfway out of his grave, you can't see. There was actually a golf club which I rubbed out.
Right.
There's a swimmer and a diver, but
okay.
So if it's just. I mean, one of the things I loved about this, it might have been a light-hearted project, but when as an artist, when you impose limitations on yourself,
yes,
you've really got to think about how you can improvise and achieve.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I like the fact that you've done that. You had those limitations, but that's what we're sticking to. Yeah.
See, the Pope, the Hierophant.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a piece of clip art of some tacky bit of clip art of a businessman sat at a desk, but once you put the color overlay over him, and then he's had the Pope's hat stuck on him, nobody's ever going to know.
It's so clever, Chris, because the way you're explaining it, you make it sound like you can knock it together, but it looks stunning, and you would never guess that that's how it's been created.
I think the thing I would say with this is, if you're ever looking, if you want to create, so I mean, number of people that say to me, I want to do my own tarot deck, but I'm scared to start, and I won't have I won't have the confidence to see it through. I mean, I said I wanted to design my own deck for years, and then I finally managed to sort of realize that in 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
And I never thought I would be able to do that. It was basically, I collaged it in Photoshop, but actually this shows that you can put a tarot deck together. There's more ways to put a tarot deck together than you realize. And this, in a way, a lot of this was already there, but I've just repurposed it. I mean, again, when you look at my Lovers card, I kind of had to look at, let me just get a Marseille Lovers card, because this one kind of sort of indicates where I've had to use a bit of lateral thinking because of the limitations in the source material and what have you. So I'd said I couldn't do anything but use clip art. So there's your Lover card from traditional Marseille, and we think it shows the man, obviously Cupid about to fire the arrow, but he has to make a choice between vice or virtue. That's one of the readings of it. Or it's purity, like sort of youth and purity against age and wisdom.
Yeah.
So I thought, I can't do that, and I can't actually do that literally in silhouette.
No.
So I ended up having to have a rummage through my, what I had on file and what I could find. So I kind of went for the sort of the primness and the sort of passion and purity thing, but it's a bit ambiguous because, I mean, you've got this sort of very prim, elegant woman here. He's here, but then in the middle, she's lounging around like some old tart, as if to say, here I am, don't go to her, come to me. And of course, with Cupid at the top. But again, I mean, if you actually strip the colours off those, I can't. Funny thing is, now it's so long, I can't even remember what a lot of this clip art was. I'd have to sort of go back into the original files, but this kind of proves. I mean, I just used very, very basic techniques to create this, with rudimentary Photoshop skills. And so I would say to people, if you want to design that tarot deck, don't worry about whether you're going to be good enough. Just give it a go. And then you'll probably be like me. You'll probably just say, well, that was crap. You'll shove it away in the cupboard. And then 6 years later, you'll revise it. And then 14 years later, you'll go back and you'll revise it and you think, oh, it's quite acceptable now. But that's mine. I did it.
I think also it's about that kind of starting something.
Yes.
And I mean, making a tarot deck,
Yeah.
I've never done it. I'm in the process of doing a Lenormand deck and getting that out there. So that's just 36 images, and that was harrowing enough.
Yeah, but look,
78, and I didn't have to do much.
What you achieved.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to showing people when it's available. Hopefully, next
Didn't
couple
you
of
surprise
weeks.
yourself with that?
I really did surprise myself with that, and I would have never thought that I could. I ummed and ahed for a very long time about it, and it wasn't until I actually thought, oh, perhaps I could do this, and that's when the fun element. And I don't know how much fun it was for you creating this deck, Chris. Whether it becomes
It was,
it doesn't become too much of a chore, but there's times where you go, oh, particularly when you get to the end, it's like, oh, I just got to finish those last few cards, and it's. Yeah.
Antoinette just put said 78 images is just, and then dots 100 years later in my realms of achievability. Never say never, darling. Never say never. Because I started my first couple of attempts at tarot decks never got completed. But eventually I did. And actually, that's something that I shared with Stephen Bright, because Stephen made several attempts, got so far in, and then all of a sudden, I mean, I know with me, when I did my first deck, something just clicks, and it's as if that's the one that you're meant to finish. Yeah. So I don't ever see anything as not wasted, because I mean, a lot of the time, stuff that hasn't been finished, I've recycled into other projects. There's lots of an unfinished tarot deck that I started in 2010 that found its way into the Healing Light Tarot. You know, I started a deck in 2010. I think I got 10 cards in, and it just floundered. But I think 6 of those cards found their way in, you know, albeit adapted, into the Healing Light Tarot. So nothing is ever wasted.
Exactly. It gets repurposed, or you know, you'll use it for a completely unrelated project. Or I think the main thing is just do it for the joy of it, you know. So I'm just going to catch up with some chat, Chris. Thank you. I love that story. Thank you. Hi, Peter. I don't know if I said hello to you earlier, but it's lovely to see you. But he says, though I'm not a tarotist.
Oh, it's Peter.
Yes. And only know what I've learned from Julie. I really enjoy the energy of these conferences. Yeah. It's where I met John and Caitlin Matthews and so many other ones.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's lovely to see you in here, Peter. Actually, that's a nice time. Yeah.
Yes, Joe. Hi, Joe. There. It comes from NPC in the US. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, is there an NPC in Europe? I can't remember. Do they have?
I don't know, because I know all I know is that they will post internationally. I mean, you know, if you order from their site, you know, you shouldn't have any problem. They will post internationally. Yeah.
Heather says, that's me. No idea how to start. I'm so overwhelmed with all the images available on Canva.
I started with my first deck. I photo collaged it. So what I did was I put folders together on the computer, source material folders. And every time I saw something that was royalty free, that I could use, that was suitable or triggered an idea for a card, I saved it back and dropped it into that folder. And it was kind of for my future reference folder. And then, I mean, with that first deck of mine as well, I mean, I got friends to model for a lot of the figures on the cards. I was photographing them with an early digital camera. So I was using a mix of royalty-free stock and stuff that I'd photographed myself. But yeah, just put an idea book together, you know, put a folder on your computer and just drop things in, because it's no race. You'll just find that you'll just,
exactly. You don't set yourself a limit to it.
Here we go.
Robin said, I doodled my first deck and used geometric shapes and stick figures from Max Page program for my second one. I'll tell you one who's shy. It's more about organization and artistic ability. Absolutely right. Yeah. Get your folders sorted, get your computer sorted.
Here's a great, to me, this is one of the best examples. I don't know whether you've seen this. Amazing. Andrea Aste and Neil Kelso. This was a project of theirs. But these started out because they were self-publishing their own book on tarot. They didn't want to pay fees for reproduction of tarot images. So they quickly put together this stick figure illustrations. Yeah. Now, they were so successful, they've actually printed them as a deck.
Right.
But it really shows you the number of people, how successful this has been. The number of people at the tarot conference I saw who bought these, and they brought them back the year later because, of course, they're a great reading deck, and also, you know, they'd fit on the table very easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact that people were using them continually, it shows what a good reading deck this is. And it's literally a deck of stick figures, but all the symbolism that it's beautifully done, and the symbolism is all there. So even if you think you're crap in terms of your artistic skills, you know,
give it a go.
And I mean, the funny thing is, neither Andrea or Neil are crap at their artistic skills, but they also knew how to pare it back to the bare minimum.
That's the secret, isn't it? Is at what point do you stop there?
Exactly.
There's something so powerful
in a mages only deck.
Mages only deck. Yeah, I've got a couple of mages only. I hardly read with them, but sometimes they're okay, good to just pull out. And Tony says, I'm sat here wondering how many of the major arcana are essential to create a deck. I like that.
Many as you
outside the box. I love creative brainstorming. Yeah. And MA says the tiny cuteness, and Robin says I love
this is one of my favorite decks. This stays on my desk because my actual computer desk is quite small. This is like the most practical deck.
Yeah.
I've got my box upside down. And when you knew you were going to get problems with me tonight, didn't you? There we go. We're the right way up.
I didn't even notice.
But yeah,
that's because we're twins. We're like that, you see. We don't even have to worry about it.
So yeah, Andrea Aste and Neil Kelso's Lilliput Tarot, and this does not leave my deck. This is my Skype reading deck because I can do a Celtic cross on this small desk.
Yeah,
please, you know. They're also this is my cardstock fetish dream as well because they've done it on linen finish.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It shuffles like a dream. So
Robin's put it into the chat. So if you want to have a look at it, it's there.
That's brilliant.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah.
Thanks, Robin.
Remember, purchase responsibly. If Gerald was here, he would say that. Let's talk about some cards. What there?
Should we do some
he might bound to. Well, were there any cards that caused you any major problem when you designed them and thought, I need to have a massive rethink? No, this can't possibly do. Do tell us some of the darker side of this.
My Pope card, the Hierophant, was ghastly in the first. And I knew it was ghastly because this was one instance where I found a piece of clip art, but it was just so tacky and ghastly obvious it was a bad idea. And it's like it was portrait of John Paul II in clip art. And the problem is, it seemed like a good idea at the time, and it was there. I had it on the computer, but the problem is when you're reading with John Paul II, and you know, it was just really distracting. And it was so obvious that it wasn't an improvisation. It was just like, oh, that's John Paul II. We'll chuck it in the card. So I got to sort of the 2010 version, and I kind of did the 2010 revision. The first copy I printed went to my dear friend Penny, but she still got John Paul II. So Penny has the only, I mean, it's like it's awful. It sounds like Pam A, Roses and Lilies, doesn't it? You know, she's got the Millionaire B, John Paul II, basically, the only copy.
Yeah.
But it looked even more ghastly because, of course, I'd altered the colours and done the sort of Jean Noblet colours. So at which stage I thought, why the hell? You know, because you just kind of overlook the obvious. So I just got something that was completely un-Pope-like and then decided that I'd stick a hat on him. And all of a sudden I thought, yeah, that's working now because it was more in keeping with the rest of the deck. And it's, you know, It's gloriously clunky still in the way that the rest of the deck is, but at least it's not John Paul II.
With two rolling pins behind it.
Yeah, and I also realised that actually anybody who had a bit of a grudge against John Paul II or any subsequent popes would not particularly like that card. So I think that was probably the most problematic. The others were, I mean, really the big problem was when I did this in 2007, my Photoshop skills were really not that good. And of course I was, and also this was a rush job. So I was kind of my instinct was to kind of imitate the decorations on the original Marseille cards. Because I mean, when you look at these, if you look at the swords, all the decorations on these are quite floral. So, I mean, you can see what I was trying to imitate, but it was never going to look that good, particularly when you've just got disjointed clip art. So when I came to revise, I just had to I did a real rethink, and I kind of sought out sort of geometric shapes, super modern ones and custom shapes. So actually what I ended up doing was stuff like this, where there's no kind of floral stuff, but there's a lot of background patterning under the pips.
Yes.
Just seemed to work really well. And particularly it gives them a much more, it gives them that ancient but modern feel at the same time.
Yeah.
So, so my fleurons on the pips and my Pope were major objections.
You have a problem with your fleurons.
I was having problems with my fleurons, yeah. And I think anybody else anyone who's a real Marseille purist, I mean, there is this school of thought that if you're reading with pip decks and Marseille decks, you can actually sort of intuitively read with the fleurons and the directions that they're flowing in and how they connect up. So, I mean, anyone who does that, they're going to hate me, because, I mean, it's like there isn't a fleuron in sight. There's just... So, never mind.
Well done, you created the first unreadable tarot deck.
It was real relief. I was reading with it at the tarot conference, and I'd sat down next to, I was with Tara Sanchez, and she grabbed my deck and she said, "Oh, I could read with this intuitively." And I'm thinking, yes!
Oh, that's brilliant.
That's brilliant, because I'd sort of, I mean, I did take so many liberties with this, and it's not an authentic Marseille deck, but it's kind of my fond tribute. Yeah. So when somebody actually said, "Can I borrow that?" I think that's really readable. It's like, be my guest. So, yeah.
How has it helped I mean, how much did you read with Marseille before? And how much has this creation process helped you with it? Because
helped me with it a lot, actually, because the first deck I bought was this, and of course I was 13 going on 14, didn't know what I was buying, and I bought the Swiss one, JJ, which I love, but of course it was a pip deck, and
I did exactly the same. I had the RWS guidebook, and I went and bought myself a tarot deck, and I bought that one, and of course the two of them were never going to match up, unbeknownst to me. So
the great thing was, I mean, I don't know whether it was the same with you, but of course, I mean, it was, it was enabling my irresponsible tarot spending even at that age, because having bought a pip deck and realized it was unreadable at that stage, I then sort of went back a couple of weeks later with saved up pocket money. Oh, it's Julie. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Julie.
Oh.
Hi,
I went back a couple of weeks later and I bought an RWS, and then just kind of really went back and bought a Fergus Hall a couple of weeks after that. So they were my 3 decks, but 2 of them were pip decks. And I struggled with them for years. But I mean, I'm not an adept Marseille reader by any means. But what I find now is, because I've worked with Marseille, and also because I treated myself. I think I said to you before, didn't I? I've treated myself to Kathleen Matthews's book on Marseille decks. So I'm working through this. But because I've worked with Thoth decks, Waite-Smith decks, other traditions, I tend to use, if I need a blank canvas, I love for intuitive readings, sometimes going back to a pip deck or a Marseille deck, because there's no pictures to distract me, and then I let the pips trigger whichever strand of intuition comes along. And sometimes I'll end up applying a Thoth meaning, an RWS, something completely different. Now, I mean, I don't think there's any one way to read tarot. I'm not a great Marseille reader, so that's how I use them. But then again, what interests me at this stage now is actually, as I say, with the Kathleen Matthews book, it's piqued my interest to really sort of dig into that Marseille tradition, because there's a whole tradition of alternate card meanings. Some of them kind of overlap with the ones that we're familiar with, but others are quite different. And of course, you're going back to sort of the likes of, sort of Taylor's, interpretations of the pips, different ways of reading with unillustrated cards. So, I mean, I would say for people, I mean, if I'm not a Marseille adept, but don't let that put you off. Just, for me, it's about using a tarot deck in whatever way works for you, And sometimes when I need minimalism, if I need a clear head, I'll go for a pip deck, because it just allows me a range of.
You see, I'm never that brave enough, and I have done a few readings, with a Marseille, but I've never felt comfortable doing it, because I don't feel like it's a bit like when you first start off in tarot, it's like, I don't know if this is right or not, and I don't know. And I just always go on RWS or Lenormand or something like that. And so therefore it's like, oh, another system. Oh, okay. I don't like that feeling of, am I on the right path with this one? I don't like that one. Whereas I know, generally speaking, with the
You're very much like me.
That's,
I mean, our strongest tradition is RWS, isn't it, for both of us? That's kind of the basis of what we've learned with. But if you're interested in Marseille, by chance, I went into Amazon Prime Video a couple of months ago, and just out of just curiosity, I typed in tarot in the search box, came up with this incredible documentary about the American tarot reader Enrique Enriquez, and he's a Marseille specialist. And it's fascinating because, of course, he's talking about his philosophy of working with the Marseille. But there we go, Pam. I love Marseille, but I still search for the story there. Now, that's Enrique, because he has a method of, he uses the numerology of the pips to build a progression. And I was amazed at actually how loose but how concise his reading technique was. Now, he's written 3 books on working with Marseille-inspired decks, which I'm about to get because my curiosity was just massively piqued. And that was one of the reasons I went back and revised this, because I'd watched the documentary, and there's people like Rachel Pollack and Mary Greer. Hi, Laurie. Rachel Pollack and Mary Greer singing the praises of this guy, and you're thinking, right, I need to sit up and listen if they're saying that this guy has got something special. And it was just fascinating, and it's made me look at pip decks in another way. So anything by Enrique Enriquez in print or through that documentary, if you're interested in Marseille, really brings it to mind. And I love that guy. Apparently he just goes around New York and he leaves tarot cards on benches and on shop window ledges for people to pick up at random, and I'm thinking, I like that, that's wisdom.
I like that. That is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Joe says, I'm a TDM love affair right now, loving the stretch allowance.
Yeah. And there is stretch. I mean, I'm all in favor of tradition and actually having sound ground in a tradition, but ultimately your cards have got to work for you in a personal way. And, we can break the rules, we can stretch the rules. And quite frankly, I mean, I wouldn't be reading with this if I couldn't, because I haven't got the knowledge, So Camellia Elias. Now that's a name I've heard, but I don't know anything.
I don't know very much. Oh, I'll have to. I'm about to fall down a massive new rabbit hole, aren't I? It's going to be. I have to do it after Christmas. I've got too much on. I'm still Marseille, not Marseille. I'm still Lenormanding at the moment. So I've got to get that under my belt. So there we go.
If you want.
Joe says he was a student of Camilla.
Now that explains. Yeah.
And Deanne says a lot of the alley folk, the alley man tarot lovers leave cards around in public.
I just think that's a lovely idea. I've yet. It's just, I'm thinking, God, that would really brighten my day up if I was out in Liverpool and then all of a sudden there was a card just left on a bench. That would be.
Yeah.
as long as it's not the
Well,
Tennessee.
I've got quite a few decks. I don't quite know what to do. You know, like sometimes you get something and you go, or something turns up from eBay and you go, that's a fake. Perhaps we should start doing that. Is that littering? I don't know.
Of course, isn't it? I think it's intriguing enough that people pick them up. So
yes, yeah.
I've got to show
you
you
a day where we just go and do that. I don't know if that's legal or not. I don't know, but that'd be really cool.
Sure. You know, next time next time you come up to Liverpool, should we do a day of tarot card bombing? Yeah. That would be good, wouldn't it? We'll kind of just leave cards at random and
yeah. Oh wow. And then kind of see if I don't know, if someone put a hashtag on the back and see if anyone sort of reports it or puts it on social media.
Yeah. That'd be good, wouldn't it? If you actually put hashtags on the back and said, if you find this, post it and tag us. And then we'd actually find out where they look. Joe, my friend in Madrid found the moon card in a puddle on the ground. Wow. See, that's the sort of thing, you know? It's
love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Come on, then, let's have the ABBA story. It's time.
Do you want the ABBA story?
I want the ABBA. We all want the ABBA story.
I'm going to destroy my credibility as a serious tarotist with this. Anyone who knows me, I'm a seriously bad ABBA fan. You know, so much. I mean,
ABBA fan.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I really thought I'd grown up until they released Voyage last year, because, you know, the mug of a 14 or 15-year-old teenager who would go out and buy something on coloured vinyl because it was coloured vinyl, even though it was crap. I kind of thought I'd grown out of him, but then ABBA released Voyage, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking, I've grown, I've aged to very little avail, because all of a sudden it's like I'm completely fanboying out, and it's like I've got to have the picture disc, I've got to have the orange vinyl, I've got to have the CD. So that's a kind of sad admission on my part. But believe me, the orange vinyl and the picture disc had been played to death, so they were worth it. But I kind of decided when I was doing the first revision of this deck, I kind of wanted to sneak in something ABBA-esque. And
do we have to? Are you going to show us? Can we spot it in the card? Are you going to play a game? Or
well, that was my original Hermit, and I just decided it's not going to cut it, because it was just, that was another problem card. So I mean,
it's an hourglass.
It's an hourglass, because I kind of went with sort of I went with Visconti symbolism, because I had an hourglass and not a lamp in my clip art. So when I came to revise, I thought, that's got to change. But you're just going to have to forgive me for this, because I kind of went a bit Waite Smith. And of course, I love the Waite Smith image where he's like on the top of the mountains. So I kind of thought, I want some Voulez-Vous mountains in here. So I kind of... So my Hermit has got Voulez-Vous mountains in the back.
I like it. It's subtle. We'd have never have guessed that one, but Voulez-Vous.
Yeah. But, I mean, why the hell? I do not get what is my logical thought process? Why does the Hermit need Voulez-Vous mountains in it? But he did somehow. So
perhaps that's all those centuries of tarot readers channeling through to you, going,
it's just
Agnieszka.
It's just me being a nerd.
Robin says, is that Agnieszka at the microphone? Sadly not.
Sadly not. It's
that'd be nice though.
Mind you, with a beard like that, could be Benny, couldn't it?
It could be Benny. I always got the boys mixed up. Which one was which?
Benny was the hot one on the piano with the hairy chest. Bjorn was the sweet but slightly gawpy looking one on the guitar.
Yeah.
See,
I never knew which one they were until they actually had their instruments out. That's when I knew they were which one was which. But
I couldn't possibly comment, darling.
No, I knew that one played the guitar and one played the keyboard. But when they were being interviewed, I'm like, and I can't remember who was married to who at what point. But anyway, the fact is, we love them. We absolutely love them. So
that is kind of the silliness and the randomness of this deck, because I just thought, let's have some sort of ABBA-esque mountains in there.
I love it.
Why not?
I love it.
But we also, my Wheel of Fortune was sort of a bit hilarious because, of course, I didn't have. I mean, you've got the Wheel of Fortune. Hang on, let me just get me traditional Wheel of Fortune, and of course, it's kind of quite profound because it's got like sort of beastie thingies going up and down the wall, and a sort of crown monkey on the top. Thing is, I didn't have any monkeys, but I did have these skateboarders, and I had a whole set of them. And I kind of thought, do you know what? Skateboarding up and down the wheel, that would work.
Yeah.
But in a funny sort of way, yeah. So it's random, but
I love it. What I really like about it, Chris, is that although you know, a lot of your decks they're quite dark with colours and lots of colours and layers over them, because that's a really white background, and it's really got your artwork and style in it, but it's very different.
It's different, and it was so nice working with something that was bright and also minimalistic, because it's made me look at. That is the best. That is the best compliment anyone's paid me all night.
There you go.
Thank you, darling. But it's. Do you know, it's made me look at the tarot in a new way doing this. You know, because I mean, even just something like the tower, when you sort of pare it back to shapes and flat colors, you kind of respond to the archetype in a different way. And cards like this felt quite raw to me in a way that they, you know, they don't. And also as well, you kind of have to come at it so much tarot you come to with quite a sort of serious, you know, from quite a serious stance. You can't with this deck, but then all of a sudden I find that it can kind of just catch you off guard, because even though this is light-hearted, you can't really dilute the archetypes, you know. So, you know, and it's just, it has really sort of made me look at sort of the tarot in a different way. But also it's kind of, I think this has helped me to work in a different way, because it's sort of just simple colors. I've realized that sometimes less can be more. You know, so I think I've got to be honest, this was certainly one of the most enjoyable things I've ever done, because I think I was just doing it as a light-hearted project and as a thank you to somebody. And you know, I know you think this is never going to get published. This is just for pleasure. So yeah, it's, and the funny thing is I didn't expect to be revising it twice and still using it, what, 2007, 15 years later. So yeah.
What you've just said is really interesting, because sorry, I'm going to keep banging on about my Lenormand deck that no one can buy at the moment.
But they will be able to soon.
One long marketing ploy. But what your comment is about, it's enjoyable. It's my deck, and I'm finding fun in doing it. That was exactly the mantra I took with me when I was making the deck. I'm making it for myself. No one else was really ever intended to see it or be able to access it. So it doesn't matter, because it's for me. And then that was part of the fun of it all, and just kind of making what fitted together for you, and finding new depths in the stuff.
And it was fascinating because, I mean, when you and Peter came to visit here, you'd almost compiled the deck, hadn't you? I think, how many cards was it you were still? I think there was about 3 or 4 cards.
5 or 6 cards short. The hard ones, you know, the snake and stuff like that.
It was fascinating because we were going through the images, and it was amazing watching your face light up as you were talking through them. And it reminded me so much of my process with this, and also with my first deck, because it was amazing watching you really engaging with that Lenormand system. Because when you have to create the cards, and particularly when you're working within a limitation, I mean, like with when I first did this in 2007, but particularly when I did my first deck in 2003, my skills were very rudimentary. So you've got to work within that set of limitations. What I didn't realize that it did, and I saw it happening with you with the Lenormand cards, is you're not just trying to sort out the technical issues. You're really engaging deeply with those archetypes and questioning what's it going to take for me to really adequately express this archetype. And the joy that you were getting out of that was really shining through. But what was lovely was when you then a couple of weeks later showed me plugged the gaps and showed me how you'd filled them. It's like, hell, that's genius. Because there was a couple of things that you'd done which I really didn't expect, and yet they so completely summed up what that card meant. So it's the same process, isn't it? The creative process actually
having to when you're having to finalize something and put it together. I'm not going to say desperation, but there is that sense of I need to make it fit. Exactly. I need to make it.
It's not always a bad thing, and sometimes it's a really good thing, But the irony is you created a really beautiful deck, which is going to be exciting to see that in print, because
I'm excited to show people. I've talked too much about it. Sorry, this is about
it's really relevant, because this is a parallel creative process, isn't it?
It's interesting you making it at the same time and gone through MPC, and you've given me a lot of ideas about how to market it, and not just market it, but what to do and stuff like that. So again, thank you for that. But we've done it almost at the same time. We have,
and also we're doing role reversal, because I've come on your channel and we're gossiping about my deck, but we're going to be doing the same for yours.
Yes, we are. I'm going to be everywhere talking about this deck when it finally comes. You're going to be bored, people. You're going to be so bored of it. No, you won't. You're going to love it. What's your favorite card then from your deck? Do you have a favorite one?
Yeah. And it was one of the first images. In the first version, it was one of the first cards I completed. It's my favorite card in the tarot, but my favorite is the Sun, and I'm so thrilled with this image because this was one where I have a really special relationship with the Sun as a card. It's whenever I look at a deck, it's always one of the first cards I go to, and that will gauge how I'm going to respond to the deck. But this was kind of one where I just managed to say everything that I wanted to say. Not first time round, but when I got to the first revision, it was kind of more or less in this form, and I've just tweaked the colours. And that's my favourite card.
Really lovely.
Yeah, because I love it, and I wanted a rainbow wall in there, because I love the Marseille. I mean, it's one of the things I love about the Marseille, the difference between that and the weight. I mean, the weight is all about the sort of walled garden and the sunflowers and the child on the horse. But I kind of love the fact that you've got the sort of, I mean, I'm a Gemini, so the fact that you've got the Gemini twins on the sun probably explains a lot about my connection to it. But sort of, within that walled space, but I thought, let's have a rainbow wall. Let's.
Loving it. The colours are super, Chris. They really are.
So, and you can see
together, you can really see
the colours on this version were my tribute to Yoav Ben-Dov, because I loved what he'd achieved on his version, because the colours, he's stuck with all. He's gone to. I mean, actually, I've got the deck he based that on was published like this by Heron years ago. I don't know whether this is still in print, but to give you an idea of the amazing restoration he did, his source material was the copy of the Conver, I think, that was in the Bibliothèque Nationale in France. Now, that's what the unrestored version looked like.
Right.
And of course,
yeah.
Now, what he's done, everything is the correct color in the correct place, but he's just stylized the colors enough to sort of bring it up and make it modern. And very much so, colors are saturated and vibrant. And I think, because particularly with the old deck, I mean, 1760, was it? So, the paper will have discolored, the paint, the inks will have sort of faded or changed color slightly. So, I mean, it's speculation on Ben-Dov's part, but he basically just brought the colors into a sort of vibrant modern place. And I love what he'd done so much that I kind of used him as my starting point for my color scheme.
I love it.
And yeah, there he is. Amazing. And that's probably, along with my Grimo, that's probably my favorite Marseille deck, the Bendov one. So
I only own 2 Marseille decks.
do you?
Mm.
Oh, darling, we're gonna have to put that right.
Yeah, well, because I don't tend to read with them, I just kind of have them for reference. But I have them because I actually like the artwork in there.
Yeah.
So I've got.
Which ones have you got?
I've got the new choice, which is Ross Solano.
Oh, that one.
Which is.
I'm jealous if I don't have it, and that's an amazing reworking.
Yeah,
amazing.
I mean it's 6 packs and muscles, but it is actually a really love. The colours in it are fabulous,
and he gets humor. You know, that's what I loved about this. He gets the humor of the Marseille tradition, and again, he's brought it into the modern age in just a really incredible way. And as a as a draftsman, these are beautiful.
They are fantastic, and I love his art style with kind of the thicker borders, but also some really careful
lines as well.
And the actual miners again are beautiful the way they've been.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, I like what he's done there, because the swords are they're actual scimitars, aren't they? Because they've only got the handles at one end. Because Marseille swords can sometimes be quite ambiguous. Handles, or they're double-ended. They're like Klingon batleths. I think that's what I like. Any Trekkies in here, you know what I'm talking about.
That's the one thing. It's kind of not the one thing, but one of the reasons I always got very confused with them, because I could never work my swords and my batons out at first glance.
Yeah, because they're not. I think for us, we've kind of grown up in that era where illustrated tarot decks are the norm. Yes. And also, the other thing to remember is these were not designed primarily as divination decks. They were designed as playing card decks.
Exactly, a card game.
So, I think that they do. The ambiguities do pose challenges when you're reading, and I think it takes a lot of getting used to.
To show you his sun card.
Oh wow, I hadn't seen that. That's just gorgeous.
Yeah, he's got a very Gemini. He's got a gay wall as well.
Hasn't he just? They're very
But yeah, he's in the process of bringing out an RWS version. And it's stunning, I have to say. I've been following his artwork. It's taken a very long time to do it. Yeah. But it is stunning. I will have to get it. But so I have this because I love the backs. I just like actually having it as part of my collection.
They're incredible. Now that leaves me with imposter syndrome, because that's like there's many months, if not more, of work gone into that. So that kind of makes my 2.5 weeks with a couple of weeks for revision. That kind of makes me feel a bit of a fraud. But
it's what it is, isn't it? So but don't feel like that, please.
Now this is interesting from Joe. I've only 3 TDMs. I've been put off with the colonialism imagery that doesn't actually match the social context of the time. But I recently bought the tarot and archetypal and the dinosaurs. Now, that's something I hadn't really thought about. And it reminds me of one of my friends who can't work with the Swiss one JJ, because he has a problem with one particular card that has... Yeah, it's the devil card, because he said, why is everyone else in the deck white and then all of a sudden the devil's black?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Sometimes you can be, it's so ingrained in our culture, you don't see it until somebody points it out with you, do you? And it's, so I can understand that, Joe. And I think, again, you just have to work with decks that you feel comfortable with,
Joe plans to get...
That's one I don't know.
You must say as well.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of half.
I don't know that one.
It does sound very, very exciting. Quite like the idea of the dinosaurs tarot de Marseille.
That's good fun. I've only seen pictures of it online. It's great fun. Yeah.
Tony's made a very good point earlier, actually. Someone needs to do a video showing how to purchase on NPC, as I do not understand.
Should we do a video?
We'll do one.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
I've never actually bought anything on MPC. I know
Yeah.
that they will, to actually upload stuff, it's very straightforward. I mean, it has to be because I've done it. But I've never actually bought stuff. No,
Searching the marketplace, I don't think is very easy.
No.
I mean, why I've kind of always made sure that I make the link. I mean, the link to purchase my deck is actually, it's on my YouTube channel. It's through my art website. But I know that if people go in and unless they know specifically what they're typing in the search, I think there's a lot up there, and sometimes it's difficult to find what you're looking for. So actually, maybe we should do a video because there's
different parts. There's the shop part, there's the ordering bits, odds and sods, or making your own orders up. And I mean that's quite. I find that quite a difficult place because they quote lots of stuff at you, and it's like I don't know. You end up buying everything just so that you. But I tell you what, they have got, which is very good. I've recently bought is a lot of the plain white type boxes that are tarot size. They've got a little plastic window in there because a lot of my old secondhand decks are beginning to fall to pieces. The box.
No, I didn't know that because I mean, if you order my deck, to keep the price down, I've just done it the basic in shrink.
Bear with me. I'll go and quickly just grab one.
Yeah, because I'd like to see one of those.
I'll just turn my camera off a second.
Yeah. And while Richie's away, as I say, that's something that I didn't know. With this, if it's purchased, it just comes shrink wrapped. But Make Playing Cards do a variety of other accessories, both for playing cards and tarot decks. I noticed they do solid boxes, with lift-off lids. They do, I think they did tarot tins, amongst other things. So it's a great site, but sometimes just the sheer amount of stuff on there can be a little bit overwhelming. Yeah.
So this is just a parent, but as you can see, my Morgan Gear box fell to pieces. And so you could order a new one and actually scan the images in and upload it, but it is pretty costly doing that. And by the time it's shipped over. So I thought, you know what? I just need something with a window on it that I know exactly what deck it is. And it's a brand new box. It was just £1 or something, not even that.
That's not bad,
and I bought several of them because as I say, a lot of the decks that I've bought, like this box for this one is starting to go. And you can retire the original boxes in a way that they're not going to get damaged anymore, can't you? Exactly. So they do sell lots of lovely things and business, all sorts of things. But I totally agree. It is a bit of a minefield. So yes, we do need to perhaps do something about that.
Yeah. But it's interesting. One thing I did find with the Make Playing Cards marketplace is all of a sudden I realized there's some very familiar names have got decks up there, and I think we were saying before we came on, weren't we, the advances in technology, between print on demand and crowdfunding are really changing the landscape, particularly for tarot. One of the reasons I've put this on Make Playing Cards is it's actually a necessity. I couldn't have committed to a lengthy crowdfunding campaign this year because I've been in a position where my parents have had ill health and I've been doing a lot of caring. So this actually Make Playing Cards print on demand platform was a godsend for me because it's meant that I can make this deck available, but at the same time, now I've uploaded it, I don't have to do anything else. And there was no sort of lengthy Kickstarter or all of the subsequent stuff that I would have had to have bought into. And I think what I'm thrilled about is that this is available in professional quality. I mean, it seems funny because I've got my 2 earlier versions, and it makes me realize how much has changed even since I did this in 2010. I had to print this on my inkjet. They've got generic backs, and I've just, I'd laminate the sheets. There'd be 10 cards on a sheet, laminate them. I'd have to cut them up by hand, corner them by hand. And whereas now, it's great whenever I finish any project. The Healing Light Tarot, when I finished it, my first proof copy, I just uploaded it to makeplayingcards.com and ordered 1 copy so that I could see that it was working. It's a joy that you can do this now.
And also, the other thing is you can also order stock for yourself if you were going off to set up a stall or go into a conference or a festival or something. but you don't have to have boxes and boxes and boxes of the stuff. You can literally order in what's needed then.
That's
so,
right. Yeah.
And
It's
Robin actually made a really good point. It's no minimum runs. You don't need to buy inventory. They do all the billing and shopping. I love it. Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's this proves the point. I mean, this was the first copy, but it was just one copy. And I think, you know, you've ordered. Did you say you've ordered a couple of proofs for yours?
Yeah, I ordered a proof copy for the deck because I wanted to just check out size and photo images, and then I made a few edits.
Yeah.
And now I've ordered 3 copies because I'm bound to drop one in a cup of tea or something like that. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making videos rather than produce a booklet that went with it. I'm going to do walkthrough videos and little bits about each of the cards and short videos so that people can just find it, because it is things like the books and the booklet that really bump the price up, and I wanted to keep
And again, we're speaking the same language because I've not provided any booklet with this. But what I have done is the back card gives details of my YouTube channel, because, of course, I mean, that's, you know, my YouTube channel centers around my Learn Tarot course, which is very in depth. I think it runs over 32 lessons. And I thought, well, I don't want to bump the price of the deck up when most of what I'm going to put, what I would put in the booklet, people can get for free on YouTube. So I'm sort of quite OCD with decks because I reorder my decks when I've done readings. I always put them back in order. I mean, Kay used to think that was hilarious. One of my other friends, even more brutally, has referred to me as CDO, which is OCD with the letters in alphabetical order.
Like that.
And you see, the problem is because I reorder my decks, it means that the Fool is always at the top and the King of Cups is always at the bottom. So handling those cards, they get discolored. So I always like to have a title and a back card. So the title card is this, but the back card on the decks that you'll order from Make Playing Cards basically have all the details of my YouTube channel and the Learn Tarot course. So similar to you, I mean, you're keeping the price of the deck down, and you know, this is what your channel is here for, isn't it? You know, and I think you're like me. I mean, I find it much easier to, you know, to make video content than I do to write. Oh, it's from Julia.
Contagious April. I've never used Printer Studio.
I've not used Printer Studio, Julie, but actually I might message you if that's okay and get the details off you. It's interesting because I've heard several people have this issue with various printers over nudity, and it's such a shame. And I think particularly in the light of Julie's work, which is, you know, which is amazing, and what nudity there is actually there for a very specific reason. But that's actually a good heads up. I didn't know. I mean, I've not been in a position with MPC yet where that would be a problem, but with one of my unpublished decks in particular, it could be. So it's good to know before, you know, in advance. So
Heather's having a moment right now because she's just realised.
Oh, bless.
You are Chris of the Healing Light, Lenormand Butler.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of destroyed all your preconceived ideas about the deck now, because you know that the creator's
oh, you should then again. I've seen him now. I'm loving it. Chris, you make me laugh so much. I love our chats because
we do have a laugh, don't we? Problem is, I mean, it's, when you came to visit, it's like me and my side was splitting, and it was like it was aching for 2 days afterwards.
It was fantastic to catch up and have chats and wine. And
oh yeah. So we're going to do the same for your Lenormand deck.
Yes, we are. There's a lot of people. Well, this is the crazy thing. Sorry, I keep talking about it. We're not here to talk about it.
No, we are talking about it. It's fabulous.
I never intended to make a big fuss out of it because it was only going to be for me. And then since I've started talking about it, people go, "Oh, I want to see that," or "I would buy a copy to do," and that's fantastic. And that's not what I intend. Really so now I've got to think about where I go and who's going to be. Yes, I'm going to come on and we're going to do a Lenormand.
Let's do a Lenormand run through. Actually, I'm thinking Lenormand run through and on-spot readings. How does that sound?
Do you know what? I don't know. I've never done live Lenormand readings.
Have you not?
I was like, no, because I'm always tend to read them big and take a bit of time on them all. So
yeah,
it'd be really interesting to do that one. And yeah,
we'll busk it because I love them. They're great. See, I love them because they're great for 2 and 3 card readings. Just for quick fire stuff.
Yeah. We'll give it a go. Let's break them open and see how it reads. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward because I've only seen them on the screen. I'm just really looking forward to see, when you hold that deck up and it's like it's there, it's on cardstock. That's going to be brilliant.
Thank you, and again, thank you for your help with it as well.
It's a pleasure.
Let's get back to you. Let's get back to your deck. We've got about 5 minutes.
We've got 5 minutes.
What advice would you give for somebody starting out reading Marseille?
I would say there is a tradition out there, but there will be plenty of people out there who are telling you that this is the one way that you should do it. Actually, no, I don't think there is. There are so many different voices out there and they've all got something to say. I mentioned Enrique Enriquez before. I've just bought the Kathleen Matthews book, which is incredible. But again, it's daunting. They don't give you the same visual cues that a Waite-Smith deck would do, or even a Thoth deck would do. But the very simplicity of them can actually be the virtue, which I'm really starting to discover now. And the fact that you say, I've got the 10 of Swords here. I don't have a great deal of visual imagery to go with it, but all of a sudden, I'm thinking back to the basics of the nature of the sword, the element that it represents, the numerology of the 10. And this is something that Enrique really emphasized in his film. And when you strip that back to the basics and all of a sudden you combine those 3 things, you start to get really interesting readings. And sometimes I would say, don't be put off by the fact that there's so little. Actually, just embrace it.
Yes.
Because you can, just going back to those 3 simple things in combination actually gives you something quite rich. So I would say just enjoy and use it the way that it works for you. If it doesn't work, put it down and come back to it. For me, they didn't work for years, but I loved the imagery. I loved the sort of the variations in the symbols from the Waite-Smith and the Thoth, and I loved the kind of clunky woodcut medieval style. So I would just say, give it a go. I'd say to anyone, give it a go. Don't be put off. And there's a certain amount of snobbery around pit decks. They're kind of seen as elitist. Sod it. Just, they're there for anyone to read. And play around with them. Experiment. Find something that works for you, and then just do what I did and design a completely silly deck that would, nap off all the purists. Which I did. I did get some really quite snotty messages because the early version went up on Eclectic Tarot. And it was like somebody messaged me and said, well, I can't read with this because there's no fleurons. And I'm thinking, well, there is, but they're just crappy custom shapes. And that's the point. So I kind of fell foul of the deck snobs, but that's fine too, because actually
they're everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah, it also reminds me of the difference. This was a bit of fun. This is kind of a masterpiece of tarot tradition that's lasted centuries. So there's room for both.
Exactly. I was going to say there's room for it all, isn't there?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
What one deck may not work for you, but there is, and that's why there are so many versions, particularly RWS. There's so many versions of it because eventually you do find something you lock onto, isn't it?
And you know what? There'll always be room for more. Because one of the things that did strike me is there's lots of people here said I wouldn't have the artistic ability or I wouldn't have the patience or the staying power to design a whole deck. And the one thing that strikes me is I don't care what the decks look. There are some decks out there that I just blow my brains. The Ciro Marchetti decks, they're just, Joanna Powell Colbert's Gaian Tarot is just one of the greatest masterpieces ever created visually, as well as being an amazing tarot system. Julie's decks, look at Julie's decks. My God, they're works of art. But then you also, look at this. Stick figures. But anyone who gets to the end of creating a 78 card deck has got my attention and they've got my admiration because it's the journey and actually what you've learned in the process. So there will always be room for more tarot decks, and that's just from my completely avaricious collector's point of view as well.
And if it's not, you can go around and put them in places in your hometown, can't you?
I can, yeah, and also I can just every time I've shuffled them, I can, my CDO can come back into play, and I can reorder them, which actually is more relaxing than antidepressants. So
I like that. That's brilliant. Oh, brilliant. Joe's putting in some really useful advice here. Find a deck that resonates. Precisely. I think that's very good. The first border call there. I use numerology. And excuse me, I'm going to cough. I'm just going to turn my microphone off. Excuse me a moment.
That's fine. But there you go, Joe. Exactly. Numerology and suit emblem. And just those combinations give you so much. And actually, that's the basis of when you look at the Golden Dawn and the Rider-Waite, at the very right at the bottom of it, that was their starting point too. The only difference being that Pamela Coleman Smith, gave pictorial narrative to it. But that's really at the root of everything we do. And it's those combinations of symbolism that give so much and give us so much information.
If in doubt, use what you know to kick off.
Yeah. If in doubt, stick with what you know, and then explore when you're ready. And it's and if a deck doesn't work, I've got lots of decks that didn't work for me, years. But I didn't stop. What I didn't stop doing was going to my boxes, getting those decks out and leafing through them, and just loving them.
We still got them. We still have them in our collection, and I've never particularly read with either of the decks that I've been looking at today, but I wouldn't part with them.
No. I've got a couple of decks that I virtually never read with. I've probably read with them a handful of times, but I couldn't part with them because they're actually, you've just made me realize, they're decks for meditation, because there you go, Julie, there is always room for more in all flavors. Absolutely.
And Heather says I connect with color as well. So,
and actually just sitting and leafing through a deck and losing yourself in the artwork is a form of meditation. And I found very often with decks like that, all of a sudden, before I know it, I've started reading with them years later. But I've spent years absorbing the imagery, the symbolism, just for pleasure. So
I think that's a really important thing, that symbolism. And for me, the Marseille symbolism was the first thing that got me interested in tarot.
Yeah.
Tales of the Unexpected and all those ones. All that stuff we always talk about and share.
Tarot House of Horrors. Do you remember that one?
Was very interesting, actually. I noticed I'm watching The White Lotus second season. I don't know if you've
not seen that.
With it.
No.
They're based around hotels, and the first one was set in the Caribbean, I think, and this one's set in Sicily. Right. And in one of the episodes, no spoilers going on, one of the characters asked for a local tarot reader to come in, and they make a big fuss about she's a traditional tarot reader, and she sages and smudges and does all the things, and she reads with a Tarot de Marseille, one of the original ones. However, they only ever show the major arcana. Now that's obvious why that's the case on TV, because those images are very familiar and have got this kind of nostalgic woo-hoo-hoo-hoo feel to them all, haven't they? That we, if it had been an RWS, would it have had quite the message? But also interesting, they never had any of the minor arcana come up for the Tarot de Marseille, because I think that would just confuse people. It's interesting though that they went for that and had all the major arcana. And actually, they did a really good job of talking about the interpretation of it just on this program. Normally, they just fuzzy, But it was interesting that they went for that option and that option alone.
It is. It's funny because you reminded me. I mean, I'm really showing off my really crass television watching habits now. Because one of my favourite scenes is when Joan Collins had her cards read in Dynasty. The dreaded Alexis Carrington Colby Dexter, having her card read. But interestingly, you made me realise the the card reader comes in the turban and dripping jewelry, but she's reading with the Visconti Sforza, and it's the same thing. It's one of the earliest decks, a pip deck, but I think there's a certain, I think when you're using tarot in film, the visual element is really important. But then what matters to me is that whoever's written the script has actually done their research and that the reading actually means something.
Yes.
But, that's what matters. But it sounds to me in this instance that it did.
Exactly the same thing. And of course, they're not going to pull the sun. They're going to have the tower and the devil and all those ones, because that makes for a much better storyline and foreshadowing is going on. So, I was fascinating that it's still, and actually they've just redone I say redone. I'm just going through the new Dynasty that's on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
And they still had a tarot reader come in to do Alexis's cards in the season there. Yeah. So that was interesting. So they're keeping the same storylines there. So
the original tarot reader, if I remember rightly, she did have a great turban. I did have turban envy, I have to say.
But I think she came in with all the jewels and the scarves and the incense. Because that's how I am. This is just me pared down. And Chris, I know that when you came, you agreed to be at the door with your turban on.
Oh, I did, didn't I? Yeah.
James solitaire kind of makeup.
Yeah. This is just the this is the casual look, for a Friday night deck casual.
The Friday night, I'm not wearing the feathers on the turban.
I was having a conversation with Liz Dean at the tarot conference. We both said the same thing. We were really bitterly jealous of Jane Seymour because I didn't realize Liz discovered the tarot in exactly the same way as me. And we didn't just want Jane Seymour's outfit. We wanted the reading table. Because
do you
remember she had the reading
table open as she gets out of it?
But also she had the throne. But the throne had like the cape, which folded round on arms, and the hat that came down on a lever. And I'm thinking, want one,
I want that. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Never mind. We can but dream.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much for this.
Is there
anything else you want to talk about your deck? Because we've jumped about all over the place.
I'm just looking at the time. We've really overrun.
It's fine.
I
haven't got through half the questions I wrote down either. But
never mind. I'll share one card with you before you go, because my Queen of Wands.
Oh,
I
like that.
That's Rita Hayworth, the Hollywood film star. I run out of clip art, and by that stage, I kind of had learned how to use the Photoshop drawing tools. So I actually found this fabulous photo of Rita Hayworth, and she's actually got a scarf in her hands above her head. And I thought that scarf can come out and a wand can go in. So that's actually, I created a custom shape of Rita Hayworth and stuck a crown on her. Yeah.
But do you know what? I'm just Googling Rita Hayworth
because stunning.
Rita Hayworth was a mathematician. She was fantastic. She did something. Hang on, I'm just going to have a look. Yeah. She was something to do with computers. She was like coding. Hang on a moment. I'm sure it's Rita Hayworth. Hang on a moment. I might just math.
Julie's just asked if turbans are going to become a thing, and all I can say is, if we have our way, absolutely. And apart from anything else, we've got more to cover up. Being sort of follically challenged, the tarot reader's turban is a real asset. So,
sorry, I'm doing this bad thing. I can't find it now, but I'm sure she was something like, she was obviously a fantastic. I'm sure it's Rita Hayworth, but she was also a fantastic mathematician and went on to basically do something that's really important with computers nowadays.
Tell you what, that sort of that kind of really enhances my card.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. I'm going to have to Google. Sorry, keep talking.
Yeah, because Queen of Wands for me, I mean, she's this fiery fount of creative and sexual energy, but at the same time, there's just something hugely intelligent about her. And actually, that's finding that out, because I mean, I didn't know that. I mean, I just saw the photo and thought, oh well, that's it, that's her, because my original Queen of Wands was a bit naff, and and knowing that, you know, that kind of really does add another dimension to her.
I don't know if I'm right or not. I
Never
can't
mind.
find it now. It was some famous, glamorous Hollywood actress with blonde hair. So I'm hoping it was Rita Hayworth.
If it was Rita Hayworth, I will be very, very happy.
Somebody will let me know. There'll be a comment a few days later after this video. Chris, thank you so much for talking about it. It's been a joy. It's so nice to have you back.
And thanks to everyone who's joined in. It's just, yeah, it's just been really good fun and lovely to see you all.
You're all very, very welcome. Have you got much coming up this week?
I am basically, I'm kind of recovering. I've just finished a massive illustration job, which is completely non-tarot related. So it's nice because I can actually get back to my own work this week. I'm also, this next week, I'm also going to be doing a live with Janine Worthington, who was the creator of In Between Tarot, published by Lo Scarabeo. Now, Janine has recently done her own self-published Oracle deck, so we're going to be chatting about that. So if you want to head over to my channel, which is the Sacred Tarot, next week, I'll be posting details of it soon and setting it up as a live. But yeah, I'll be chatting to Janine. So, and we were talking about actually talking nicely to Janine, weren't we? And seeing if we could get her to talk
to Janine. If you're watching, we're going to be talking to you.
She might be watching, but if she isn't, she's watching on catch up. So I've completely put her on the spot, but I don't think she'll mind.
It is Hedy Lamar. I'm so sorry, everyone, telling you absolutely.
Well, never mind. If I revise it again,
Hayworth was very good at maths too.
If I revise it again, I'll put Hedy Lamar on the Queen of Swords or something like that. That'd be good fun.
Yeah. Or Queen of Swords, perhaps Queen of Swords, a bit more scientific, a bit more methodical.
Yeah.
Apologies for leading you, getting very excited and telling you a porcupine. Anyway, it was Hedy Lamar. Thank you, Carla. We had a troll, yes, we had a troll as well. So that's, you know, it's going to be a good chat when you get a sex chat bot come in, don't you?
Oh,
so
God, we have.
We have.
Sexchat69.site was blocked for 5 minutes.
I chucked on
God, isn't it hilarious?
On a Friday evening, do we? I'm too exhausted.
No.
Lorraine, you're very welcome. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Lorraine. I was just going to say the irony of it, if we've got a sex chat bot site, I mean, the fact that it's probably a straight sex site bot trying to sell straight porn to 2 gay tarot readers, that's really going to go down well, isn't it? You know?
It was the chat about Jane Seymour and turbans that probably brought them in, don't you think?
Probably was.
It's you and your ABBA. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I have got next Friday, I'm here with Gerald and with Heather, and as I said, we're talking about the court cards, which I'm really excited about because I love the court cards. So if you
that will be exciting.
Please join us, because we're just going to talk about ways of working with the court cards and taking the confusion out of it, and it's going to be super exciting.
And I'll join you on catch up on that one, because that's one of my that's something I'm really interested in. So I will be watching that afterwards. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Have a lovely weekend. Have a lovely weekend, everyone.
Yeah.
And see you really soon.
Yeah. Bye.